Hi, I'm Amanda Jane Woodall and welcome to my fashion school. So today we're going to learn how to make a fashion studio, and this is going to help us with our photography and video so that we can create a fashion portfolio. So to be honest, taking photographs of our work can be time consuming. So we're going to make things easier for ourselves by creating this dedicated space that's going to make it a lot less overwhelming. Finding your space. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find the right space within your own home. So what we're looking for is just a plain wall that is opposite a good source of natural light like a window. And you also might want to bear in mind the floor that is directly in front of your space, because if this is very chaotic, then this might add a negative effect to your photos. So you're going to need to assess this space. So think about the type of photography and videos that you're wanting to make. If they involve a lot of movement, then you're going to need a space that is big enough to have this movement. But if your photos are very static of your work or of you in a static pose or position or of static garments, then a small space is going to be absolutely fine for this purpose. Okay, so the colour of the wall that you choose is going to affect the imagery that you end up creating. So I would say to choose a neutral coloured wall. The safest option is obviously white, but I would say to go for a more off-white, even a beige, because stark white can affect the colours of different garments and make them look grey or dark. Pink is an example of a colour that doesn't work very well against a stark white background. So you could also do the complete opposite and choose a black background wall. And this is going to take on some of what we learned from art theory, where a black background will add dimension to colours. And if you want to learn a little bit more about this art theory, then I would recommend looking at the artist Matisse, because he is known in his artwork to incorporate this theory. But don't worry if the only wall that you have is highly patterned. What we need to do then is just to incorporate this pattern within what we want to photograph. So if the wall is quite cool toned pattern, then we can think about adding cool tones to our work to complement this, and vice versa. So now we've put some effort into thinking about finding our space. So what we need to do is to clean it. And after we've given it a good thorough clean, we need to keep this space clean so we can use it just as a studio. Don't be tempted to use this space as a dumping ground in between photography and filming, because we need the space to be ready and available as we need it, and that is what's going to motivate us to take our photos. So this leaves us with a clean and well-lit space that we can use for our studio. And don't worry, if you want to keep it as simple as this, then that's absolutely fine. But in the next section of the video, I'm going to give you some suggestions of how to make the space more creative. Studio decor. So now we have the option to add some personality or even functionality to our space, and this is going to depend on our personal tastes. Refer back to the apps that I've given you in previous videos, and we're going to use these apps to go and do some research that's going to give us some ideas about the energy and the aesthetics that we want to have in our space. So here is my mood board, and I chose the theme of pastels and soft femininity, as this is something that I'm interested in within my own design process. And if you'd like to just copy my mood board for your inspiration, then feel free, because I know not everyone finds it easy to come up with base ideas. But what might be even better is if you have a go at creating your own mood board based on your own tastes and your own personality. And a mood board is just a fashion technical term for a load of images that's put on a board that we take inspiration from. And I'm going to teach you more about this in my next video, so stay tuned. So unless you've gone for a maximalist theme for your background, then I would choose to sticking to just adding a few elements that reflect your personality. So one very simple thing that you can do to add personality for your space is to create a clothing rail. So this is very easy to do. You can get a clothing rail very cheaply and then use your favourite garments which express your personality and your colour palette, and then hang these clothing on the rail to add a nice bit of dimension to your background. And having a clothing rail is also going to be a multi-useful functional piece, because you can use it also to organise your space. And when you start creating your own garments, how nice would it be to have them hanging behind you in your photographs and videos? Another really cheap and practical thing you can do now to add to your background is to create some little artworks for your wall space. And this doesn't have to be anything extravagant. We're not trying to win any art awards with these pieces. Just sticking to a very simple and minimalistic art style can create some really nice visual excitement. So for my decor, I used this technique and I created some complementary artworks in the colour palette that I've chosen for my mood board. And this was very simple to create. All I did was found magazine pages in the colours that I had chosen, and then I've just collaged them onto some plain white paper and found a nice complementary frame. And this was a really simple way to add dimension and energy to my background. And again, feel completely free to copy this idea. This is why I'm suggesting things to you, to give you inspiration and to take the fear and overwhelming feeling away from completing these tasks. You can make a home studio and you can do it very easily and very cheaply. So also feel free to find some items that reflect your personality within the background space. So I've seen people use plants, movie posters and nice pieces of furniture to add style to their photography. And while you're organising your decor in your space, take photographs so that you can actually see how the background is going to work within your photography and videos, and just adjust it depending on the colours and depending on what you want to film or the ideas that you have for photography. And for example, if something is too stark, you might need to add another decorative item. For example, I added this clock to this wall space. And also, if it's looking too cluttered, you might want to strip it back a little bit and see how that's working for you. Practical extras. So the next stage of our process is going to be looking at things that are going to practically help us to create photographs and videos. Do you need a tripod or a selfie stick to take your images? Do you need to hammer some nails in the wall to create a space to hang your garments? Or do you have a mannequin that you could use for this purpose? You can find cheap ways to show your clothing off by researching the way that other people are doing this. And you can also find things secondhand to help you, like nice decorative hangers, or even I've seen mannequins sold secondhand, as well as lighting sources and tripods. So have a look what you can find. You might also want to find a secondary light source for your photography. And I live in Britain, so trust me, I understand what it's like to battle with the dark, grey weather. And the way that I've combated these difficulties is to place a lamp in the opposite corner to my studio space, and also to purchase a cool and bright coloured light bulb, and this just helps to combat that grey. Having something like a small coffee table will help you, especially if you'd like to record your processes of drawing and creating. Just keep analysing and adding to this space as represents your needs for photography, and do not worry if you have nothing. A well-lit blank space is already perfect, and you can gradually add to this as your budget allows you to. Help! I have no space! So, in the instance that you cannot find a space within your home, don't worry, because you can take your photography outside, and I'm going to show you how to find a suitable location. So it might be as simple as just going out into your garden and finding a nice wall space or a fence as your background. Also, you might prefer to be more adventurous and go and find some nature or some forest for your background. But similarly, I've seen some amazing fashion photography that takes place in industrial settings like car parks. Take a walk around your local area, and by viewing it as a place to take fashion photography, you might start to notice there are some unassuming spaces that might be perfect for you to film your content. And if you can, please take a friend with you or a family member, because they're going to help to not only assist you and judge the space with you, but also to keep you safe. The most important thing that you need to consider for outside locations is safety and social etiquette. We've all seen these amazing and daring images that are shot on high buildings, bridges and traffic, and I'm saying to you now, do not attempt to copy these photographs. Let's be super sensible. Similarly, I've seen pictures of influencers that have taken photos with other people's cars or in front of other people's houses, and please do not do this. You need to represent yourself as a professional that knows about social etiquette. Believe me, no one wants to work in fashion with somebody who is a liability. So we've come to the end of this video, and I hope that I've given you some motivation to go and make yourself a fashion studio space. Look, we can all suffer with a little bit of imposter syndrome, but it's very true that in fashion, you have to fake it till you make it. And if it all goes wrong and it doesn't look very good, you can blame me as a bad teacher. So I'll see you again in my follow-up videos where we learn about the 3 basic aspects of design: mood boards, designing, and creating a garment. How exciting! Some amazing fashion photography that takes places in urban space. Oh no, I hate that word. Ugh.